All right. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 239. 29. I was close. I'm adding numbers. Numbers are hard, folks. All right, so today, first things first, have you picked up your copy of The Hearthwitch's Guide to Magic and Murder, Book 1 of the Hemlock Saga, written by USA Today best-selling author Kiri. Links are in the description down below. I make nothing off of this. This is not sponsored. This is not a promotion. Kiri is my friend. Excuse me. Kiri is my friend. I like Kiri. I like her book. I want people to read her book. All right, so I had a question that was posited to me about whether I enjoy science fiction RPGs. And the short answer to that is you bet your sweet bippy. The long answer to that is I grew up falling asleep to episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation. I watched the original Star Wars trilogy dozens of times when I was a kid. I would have my dad read me. My favorite was Return of the Jedi, and I'd have my dad read all of the subtitles. Despite the fact that I could read, it felt more real when Dad was reading it. When I started getting into reading, I got heavily into just science fiction books in general. I was a big fan of Tom Swift, which was a young adult sci-fi series. It was actually a reboot of a series from like the 70s. I read so many of the expanded universe Star Wars books. Like basically everything from Vector Prime on, I read every single book. And I thought they were amazing. I used to read Star Trek novels that I really enjoyed. I loved Stargate, all of the Stargate franchise. Specifically, my favorite was Stargate Universe. Yeah, I think we could safely say that science fiction was a big part of my life. And as far as science fiction TTRPGs, I absolutely love them. However, you guys may notice I generally don't do a lot of sci-fi TTRPGs on this channel. And that is due to a number of reasons, none of which is, well, I just don't like them. Probably the biggest one is there's just not as many of them. When we look at tabletop RPGs, again, they got their start from Dungeons and Dragons, which it got its start from trying to emulate things like Lord of the Rings. So TTRPGs in themselves are always going to have a fantasy slant to them because that's where they started. And a lot of the tropes that are associated with TTRPGs are rooted heavily in fantasy. You know, the idea of magic is an exclusively fantasy thing. It doesn't mean it can't show up in sci-fi shows. I'm looking at you, Babylon 5, and your damn techno mages. But it is something that science fiction is effectively borrowing from fantasy. And so because of that, there's just not as many science fiction tabletop RPGs. That doesn't mean that there aren't science fiction tabletop RPGs. It's just significantly easier to find ones that are more fantasy or modern. Like modern TTRPGs have exploded in the past couple decades. What was it? The World of Darkness games were kind of the first ones that really kind of solidified the idea of playing in the real world. And then the early 2000s, we just started getting more and more and more and more and more and more and more until now. There's just tons and tons and tons of them. You know, what are they? I mean, obviously, there's modern age. There's cities without number. There's so many. Shadowrun is technically a sci-fi modern hybrid. Savage Worlds is designed to be kind of set in modern age. Anyway, a lot of the superhero ones are almost exclusively kind of modern stuff. So like Masks and a lot of other stuff. Fate is kind of in that modern age aspect. So anyway, so that's one of the reasons that I don't generally tend to cover them here as much. Second, and I think this is one of the reasons why we don't have as many science fiction as we do fantasy. Fantasy stories in general are designed, like storytelling in and of itself is designed to, funnily enough, tell a story. And there's certain mediums that allow you to tell different kinds of stories. Things like the horror medium is designed to express a feeling of hopelessness and despair. Like that's what horror is based around. It's technically not meant to exclusively scare you. It's supposed to scare you by convincing you that there's nothing you can do. The bad guys are going to win. That's why horror movies tend to end on cliffhangers that show that, nope, the bad guy isn't gone yet, or there's a new bad guy coming. That's what horror stories are designed to do. They kind of allow you to kind of show the darker parts of humanity and highlight those. Fantasy, on the other hand, is meant to show characters overcoming incredibly difficult circumstances and being heroic. Like that's the entire point of fantasy. Is there are bad people and there are good people, and despite the fact that the good people are outnumbered, that the bad people have more power, more people, more everything, the good people can use their stuff to triumph over evil. And that tends to be the basic plot of most fantasy stories. Whether you're talking about movies, novels, television shows, it is the idea of a small group of good people triumphing over a larger or more powerful group of evil people. Science fiction, on the other hand, was never designed to tell those stories. Can you tell those stories? Absolutely, you can tell them. But science fiction in and of itself was meant to be a way to critique modern culture with just enough separation that people don't take it personally. So many amazing science fiction authors, stories, television series, their purpose was not to tell this fantastical story about something that's happening in outer space. They were telling a fantastical story that was happening in outer space in order to make a commentary on something that was happening right here in our own backyards. A lot of science fiction is designed to examine exactly what it is to be human, or what morality is, or those really big cerebral questions. And so when you translate that to a TTRPG, TTRPGs, they want to tell similar stories to, like, again, Dungeons and Dragons wanted to tell similar stories, not the same stories, but similar stories to the stories that they had been reading for many, many years. Those classic fantasy novels and things like that. They wanted to tell stories like that because those are fun. They're interesting. They're unique. I want to be, the good guy triumphing over evil. So when we look at science fiction, people that want to play in a sci-fi TTRPG want to be able to tell stories like the ones that they're used to, whether or not they realize these stories are almost entirely allegorical. It's one of my favorite things about science fiction is it's very, very rare that there isn't some sort of allegory in the story itself. With a few kind of exceptions, tend to be when you start venturing into that kind of sci-fi horror kind of stuff. Like some of the Aliens movies are not really trying to tell us anything; they're just designed to be exciting, or show off Sigourney Weaver wearing very little, but and being a total badass. But when you translate that back to a TTRPG, it is exceptionally simple to tell a story about good guys triumphing over bad guys. Like it's not a very, very difficult subject to cover. Making it interesting, that takes a little bit more work. But it's a very, very simple story structure. However, allegorical storytelling is significantly more difficult to do. It requires a lot of planning. It requires a really, really good understanding of kind of some of the things that are plaguing humanity as it is right now. And that is harder. And so when you start playing these science fiction stories, they just don't feel as fulfilling. Not because they aren't; they are 100%. But it's because a lot of people go into it sitting there going like, "Oh, I want to play, Star Trek Adventures, and I want to do that." And then they'll play it. It's like, well, this really doesn't feel like the show at all. Well, that's because, with a few very, very rare exceptions, the entire purpose of Star Trek has always been a commentary about the modern age. Over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, they use the future to make commentaries on the past. And it was exceptionally effective at that. And they were able to tackle really, really complex subjects. The idea of what is human will, what defines a human. They've had episodes on slavery. They've had episodes on gender roles, racism, the idea of the ends justifying the means is something that comes up over and over and over again. The good of the many outweighing the needs of the few, things like that. Like, these are all really, really high concept things, and translating that into a tabletop RPG, again, is not impossible, but it is more difficult than just creating a really cool, good versus evil campaign. And telling a story with a moral without it being preachy is very, very, very difficult. It's I think one of the easiest examples to find. Look for anybody that's playing Shadowrun plays around with it a decent amount. Technically Shadowrun, it's one of their kind of defining principles in Shadowrun. But the idea of like the anti-capitalist kind of thing. One of my least favorite tropes to see, and you see it constantly in kind of left-wing art, is this idea of capitalism is evil and wrong. If that's your opinion, that's perfectly fine. However, the vast majority of people that are writing these stories have no idea what capitalism is. They have no idea how it works, nor do they have any idea of the actual evil things that are going on in capitalism, because they have caricaturized it. And they've turned things like CEOs into these strange one-note, Batman villains that are just like, money, 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 money. And that's not what CEOs are. If they were like that, our economy would collapse. Businesses can't be run by people like that. And when they sit there and they over-caricaturize all of these things, what they end up saying isn't so much that capitalism is bad. What they end up saying is, I don't know what I'm talking about, so I'm going to make up a fictional villain that can't exist, and I just want you to make me feel better. So when you don't understand the thing that you're trying to villainize, you end up actually making this kind of cartoon-esque parody of it. and that doesn't feel very fulfilling to triumph over. People don't enjoy, basically fighting a straw man and winning over it, because it doesn't feel like you've won over anything, because it's not real. That's not really happening. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why sci-fi TTRPGs just aren't quite as popular, simply because the things that they're trying to emulate were written by very, very, very talented, skilled writers, and sometimes some of the stuff that they're trying to emulate is actually critical of their own beliefs, and they never made the connection of, oh, wait a minute, this is talking about the things that I'm doing right now, judging people entirely based on my opinion of them, as opposed to learning who they actually are, or deciding an entire group is evil because somebody told me they were, instead of actually finding out who these people are. That comes up in science fiction over and over and over and over again. One of the reasons it comes up so often in science fiction is because it happens in the real world over and over and over and over and over again. It's probably one of the most common methods of manipulation that has ever existed in the entirety of humankind, is just convincing someone that an other group, a different group, is somehow evil, wrong, less than human, and convincing them that you don't actually need to talk to any of them, because if you do, they will pollute your mind. They will do something to you that will irreparably. It'll make it so you can't be fixed. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons that science fiction story TTRPGs aren't quite as popular. Now, just because that's what science fiction emulates, does that mean that those are the stories you have to tell? No. Star Wars doesn't really have a huge commentary on modern society. I mean, you can draw parallels and the things like that, but the purpose of Star Wars was to tell a really epic story about good triumphing over evil, using a few well-known tropes. Star Wars in and of itself, well, yes, it is science fiction. It is much closer to science fantasy, because you have laser swords and space wizards and space magic and all of this other stuff that has science around it, but it's kind of a hybrid. And that's not a bad thing. I love Star Wars. I really, really do. Not particularly fond of the sequel trilogy, because it was a travesty. First one was pretty good. If you could ignore the fact that it is almost literally a shot-for-shot remake of A New Hope. Beyond that, that was just fun. The other two, we're not going to talk about that. But the thing with this is Star Wars is it's more science fantasy than it is science fiction, and those kind of merging of genres works really well, to where you can have science fiction without needing to get that kind of allegorical aspect of it, by just adding in a little bit of fantasy. And that's why we have things like Starfinder and Esper Genesis and Star Wars, and other things like that. So yeah, I am interested in science fiction. I figured, for the end of this video, I could just go through a few of the sci-fi TTRPGs that I own that I do really enjoy. I haven't gotten a chance to run most of them, but they're awesome and amazing, and I definitely would like to see more people playing them. So, in roughly alphabetical order, because that's how they're listed in my almost 100 gigabyte folder of TTRPGs I own. Because of what happened to my computer, I can't remember if I told you guys, my computer got bricked last week, and I had to spend over an hour manually restoring my BIOS. That's how bricked it got. And it wasn't, technically it was my fault, because I trusted a program from a major publisher to update my drivers for me, because I didn't want to manually do it, and it bricked my computer. But anyway, But yeah, I had to restore my BIOS. I had to use a restore point. I had to manually reinstall some drivers and stuff like that. It was a nightmare. Anyway, but since I finally backed up my computer, just in case something like that happened again, I actually went through and found out exactly how many TTRPGs I have as far as file size is concerned. And yeah, just under 100 gigabytes worth of, and they're all just PDFs of TTRPGs. That's what I got, guys. So anyway, let's talk about some science fiction TTRPGs. The first one, which you guys may be seeing a little bit more pretty soon, there's some stuff that is going on behind the scenes that may turn into something fun. The Age system, which was originally designed for the Dragon Age RPG, it eventually turned into the Fantasy Age system, and then they made a different version of it called Modern Age. And Modern Age is unique in the idea that you can use it to tell kind of contemporary stories that are set now or in the very near future. You can also use it for futuristic settings as well. It is a really nice kind of genre loose TTRPG. And one of the other things I find really interesting is it does play exceptionally different from Fantasy Age. Like the two systems, they both use stunts, which is amazing. It's one of my favorite things that the Age system has introduced ever. Stunts are basically when you roll doubles, you roll 3d6 for all your checks. And when you roll doubles on that, you get to add extra stuff, which are these stunts. It's like a little, a board of different things you can do, and you earn a certain number of stun points, then you spend them to do cool shit. I love the stun system. It's super, super cool. Modern Age is actually the system that powers the Expanse TTRPG, which is very, very well received. I have not explored it almost at all because I also haven't watched the TV show. I get it. It's on my list. Don't worry. It's not that I think it's a bad show or anything. It's just my brain hasn't let me watch it yet. But Modern Age is the Age system just in general, incredibly moldable, malleable TTRPG system, and the Modern Age system can be used to tell those more, science fantasy style stories where it's good triumphing over evil, like or space opera. I guess you could also go that route, that good triumphing over evil. You can definitely do that with the Modern Age system, but they also have quite a few different tools in there that allow you to tell those more allegorical stories. For other science fiction, the Cipher system, specifically Numenera. For anyone that doesn't know, when Monty Cook left Wizards of the Coast, he helped design third edition. I can't remember if he helped out with fourth edition or not, but I do know he helped design third edition. And he published quite a few different books in third edition. He was very, very popular. He went off to start his own company called Monty Cook Games. And the first thing they did is they ran a Kickstarter for a game called Numenera. Numenera was the first version of the Cipher system. And the whole point behind Numenera is you are living in what's called the Ninth World. And what the Ninth World is it is the ninth iteration of civilization. And a massive, massive point of the Cipher system is exploration. You actually gain experience points by exploring new places, and that's how you find your ciphers. The things that the system is named after are these one-time use items that are designed to be relics of a previous advanced civilization. Numenera is such an amazingly cool setting. The system itself is incredibly robust. It is a phenomenally well-designed system, especially since that was, my understanding is that was Monty Cook's first shot at designing his own TTRPG. And it turned out so amazingly cool. There's actually, if you want to experience the Numenera world, there is there is a video game, if you don't have people that you can sit down with. There is a video game called Torment Tides of Numenera. It's meant to be a spiritual successor to Planescape Torment, which was a D&D game that used the same engine as like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. But it was set in the Planescape era, and it was unique in the idea that most CRPGs at the time were very, very combat focused, and Torment you could actually get through the entire game without ever rolling combat. Doesn't mean there isn't combat in it, but it's you don't have to use it at all. So yeah, if you want to kind of experience the world of Numenera, Torment Tides of Numenera is there. If I remember correctly, I think, feel free to correct me in the comments below if I'm wrong about this. I believe Patrick Rothfuss actually was one of the writers for Torment Tides of Numenera. So that in and of itself, very, very cool. Yeah, and then Cypher, again, Cypher is a system generic thing, so you can tell a lot of different stories with it. I'm currently using the Cypher system for my Zelda game, which is kind of a techno-fantasy adventure, because it's based on Tears of the Kingdom. The strange is technically every genre you could think of. There are worlds you can go to that are high fantasy. There are worlds that are techno horror. It's one of the reasons I love the strange. So yeah, really, really great. Moving on. I don't own Esper Genesis, but I do have like the basic rules and everything like that. The system itself is fine. It is literally D&D 5th edition in space, which is, again, if that's what you like, if you really, really enjoy Dungeons and Dragons, specifically 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, then Esper Genesis is going to feel very, very good. Because it uses all the same systems. They just change it up a little bit to work in space. So that's what you're looking for. It's great for that. At this point, I've been playing D&D 5th edition for over a decade. I'm a little bit burnt out on it, and I was not super impressed with 5.5. I don't think it's evil or anything. I think it was not playtested nearly long enough. And I think a few of the things that it added are detrimental to the game. But if you like it, more power to you. I'm not saying that you're a bad person or you're wrong or anything like that, or your fun is wrong. It's just not my thing. And so Esper Genesis is another thing. Is like, you know what? It's great. It's super cool. I'm kind of over D&D for a little bit. I probably, depending on what happens with what I think is going to be a Dark Sun campaign setting that they're hopefully going to be putting out, that may draw me back in. But as of right now, I'm just like, yeah. I'm still running 2 D&D games. I haven't just cut it off completely. And I don't think it's a bad game. I'm just burnt out. So yeah, moving on. I will mention Fabula Ultima because despite the fact that it's technically a fantasy game, the Techno Fantasy Atlas gives you everything that you need to be able to run a hyper science fiction campaign. It's still going to have that science fiction fantasy feel to it because there's still, magic and stuff, and you have to reflavor quite a bit to completely get rid of the fantastical aspects of it. But you can tell some pretty amazing science fiction style stories with Fabula Ultima. And I just love Fabula Ultima. So, yeah, moving on. I have a couple Fallout TTRPGs. I've never played them, and I haven't looked through them very much, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on them, but they exist. If you like Fallout, there's RPG versions of them, and my understanding is people like them, so there's that. Ironheart is not out yet, but I have my PDFs of it. Ironheart is a solo TTRPG where you create a pilot and their giant mech friend, and you go out and explore the galaxy together. It is heartwarming. It is adorable. If Strider mode goes particularly well, Ironheart is probably going to be the next solo TTRPG that I tackle. It's just adorable. So, yeah. As soon as it comes out, I'm probably going to do... I may do Ironheart as one of my in-depth reviews for December, despite the fact you can't buy it yet, because I've just had it for so long and I want to talk about it. So yeah. The next one, this is one that I've actually run a mini campaign in last year. Lancer. Lancer is an indie TTRPG about mechs. It is impressively well designed, but it is very combat focused. It doesn't mean that you can't have a very heavy roleplay campaign, but it is very combat focused. And so, for the more kind of ethereal science fiction stuff and the allegorical stuff, you're probably going to have a harder time telling it with Lancer because there's just not as many tools in it that are not directly related to combat. In Lancer, you are playing a lancer. You're literally playing a kind of mounted cavalry unit that goes out to do things by using your giant mech that has lots of weapons all over it. It is an insanely fun game to play. Character creation in it is an absolute blast. But it is a crunchy system. If you're not willing to put the time and effort into learning all the intricacies of it, it's probably not going to be super fun for you. But if you do that, it's exceptionally fun. I used it for my Metroid campaign, and everybody had a blast. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention Lasers and Feelings. Lasers and Feelings is a TTRPG that has been released into the Creative Commons, so it's free. And it's literally a hyper simplified version of Star Trek. Like, that's what it was meant to emulate. And the whole point of any Lasers and Feelings hack is what all the different games that use its base rules are called. Is you have two conflicting styles of conflict resolution. In Lasers and Feelings, you have lasers, which is technology and all that stuff, or feelings, which is all about, how you feel and emotion and stuff like that. And so do you want to be hyper logical or do you want to be very emotional? And that's how you play the game, is you say, I want to do something. You and the GM decide whether that is more of a lasers action to do or more of a feelings action to do. And then you roll a number of D6s and see how many times you succeed. That's the entire game. It is unbelievably simple and wonderful. I made my own hack called, what is it called? Courage and Cuddles. Where you play as little stuffed animals and like security blankets protecting children from nightmares. It's the kind of things that I make. One day I will try to get it published, but I haven't yet. So yeah, moving on. There's a cool one here that I got. I can't even remember where I got it from. I think I got it from a bundle somehow. It's called Mecha and Monsters. It is designed to be Godzilla versus giant robots. This is so... I can't remember the movie series. There's only 2 movies. The first... Pacific Rim. Pacific Rim is a great movie. Lots of action, great thing, a little bit of commentary. Pacific Rim Uprising sucks. Don't watch it. But Mecha and Monsters is kind of Pacific Rim, only you get to decide if you want to be the robots or if you want to be the monsters. It's great. It's very much a rules light thing, but very much kind of a science fiction feel to it. Mutant Year Zero is another one that absolutely blew me away with just how interesting the system itself was. It's a post-apocalyptic thing where you play a literal mutant, and part of character creation is you don't get to choose your mutations. And so that turns it into a very interesting, unique experience to play. And there's a bunch of expansions. I believe there is a Mutant Year Zero video game on Steam that I've never had a chance to play, but it uses the Mutant Year Zero engine as the basis for the game. So again, if you would like to somewhat, it's not going to be a perfect translation, but if you'd like to somewhat experience the system, there are video games that allow that. Moving on. Open Legend. I have such. Hold on. I have such a soft spot in my heart for Open Legend. Open Legend was the first system that I ran my own custom kind of campaign in after Dungeons and Dragons. It was what I ran my first Zelda campaign in, and it was just exceptionally wonderful. Like everything about this system, you can use it to tell fantasy, you can use it to tell science fiction, you can use it to tell any kind of story you want. It is exceptionally malleable and moldable, and oh, it's just so good. It's also free. You just go to Open Legend. I think it's openlegend.com or .net, something like that. And you can get the entire rulebook there. There are character builders online to make building your characters easier. Building monsters. I used to build monsters on the fly for Open Legend. Like as I was streaming the game, they would come to a situation where they needed combat, and I could just build a monster while I was narrating. It's such a great system. I would also be remiss if I did not mention Starfinder. Now, I do not own Starfinder yet. It's one of those systems that I'm eventually going to have to get. I'm just looking for like a deal or something so I don't have to pay full price for it, because like everything else sold from whoever makes Pathfinder. I can't remember. God, what is the name? Paizo. There we go. Anything else that comes from Paizo, it's expensive if you pay full price for it. However, if you enjoy Pathfinder or D&D 3rd Edition or games like the D20 line of games in general that all came out of the original OGL, you will probably really enjoy Pathfinder or Starfinder. They have a Starfinder 2nd Edition that has its own Nexus. I think it's been officially launched. It was in playtest for a really long time. I think it's been officially launched. It uses a modified version of the Pathfinder 2nd Edition, which I do own Pathfinder 2nd Edition. I'm not a fan of it. It's overly complicated, overly designed, and tends to muck up most of the things it was trying to fix by just adding more and 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 more rules and complexity for complexity's sake. However, I know a lot of people that really love the system. Nothing against them. If you enjoy Pathfinder 2nd Edition, you will probably enjoy Starfinder 2nd Edition. If you enjoy Pathfinder 1st Edition, you will probably enjoy Starfinder. Like I said, the big benefit of Starfinder 2nd Edition and Pathfinder 2nd Edition right now, both of them have a Nexus through Demiplane, so they have like online character builders and online readers and stuff like that, which is very, very helpful. I don't know if they have like encounter builders, but that's one of the things that Demiplane is trying to introduce to a lot of their different games. So, yeah. D&D Beyond has encounter builders, and they're wonderful. They're lovely. So, moving on. I guess I should mention Essence 20. Transformers is science fiction. And Transformers, surprisingly enough, despite the fact that it was designed to sell children toys, if you look at not even modern Transformers, I mean, as early as like Beast Wars, and I think a little bit in the G1 cartoon, especially when you look at Transformers the movie, they've been making commentaries about humanity quite a bit in that game. And it's not very difficult to do in Essence 20 just in general. The system itself is great. I love Essence 20. I'd love to play more of it. It's super, super fun. 2 of my in-depth reviews will be Essence 20 books. Both of them will be G.I. Joe books because those are the only 2 books I haven't reviewed yet. But yeah, I have to mention Essence 20 because it's amazing, and Transformers is 100% a science fiction. Wait, no! One of them is G.I. Joe. The other one is the Transformers 1 source book, which gets even more... Like, if you guys haven't seen Transformers 1, by the way, that is a great movie. I do not believe anything in that movie is worthy of an Oscar or anything, but it is a wonderful, fun movie. The voice acting is great. I don't know if Chris Hemsworth really pulled off Optimus Prime very well, but everyone else was really good at it. It wasn't that he was bad. It's just, I mean, Peter Cullen. Enough said. But it's a great movie. You definitely need to see it. So anyway, moving on. Shadowrun. Shadowrun was one of the original punk, cyberpunk, punk rock, crazy TTRPGs. Shadowrun is about a world run by corporations, and it genuinely is. If you enjoy the cyberpunk genre, my personal opinion, Shadowrun for a tabletop RPG does it better than anybody else. The problem with Shadowrun, first of all, modern Shadowrun is not great. Shadowrun peaked, depending on who you talk to, Shadowrun peaked with either 3rd or 4th edition. Most people will agree 5th edition is garbage, and 6th edition is, 5th edition is hot garbage, 6th edition is, slightly less hot garbage. Again, it's not horrible. If you've never played any of the other versions of Shadowrun, you probably won't see anything offensive in it. But if you've played the earlier versions of it, it's night and day how much better some of the earlier versions of it are. But yeah, Shadowrun is all about, first of all, it blends that kind of science fiction fantasy because you do have orcs and elves and magic and things like that. But it does lean very heavily into the cyberpunk theme of, freedom of information and, the internet being its own world. Very much like Neuromancer, if you're familiar with that book, which kind of invented cyberpunk. That's what Shadowrun encapsulates. And it's a very dark, very pessimistic world where you're not really playing heroes. You're playing people that sometimes do good things because it's beneficial for them. So I wouldn't even go as far as saying that you're anti-heroes. You're just people living in a kind of dystopian world that are doing what they can to get by. And it's phenomenal. Buddy of mine, DK, I've talked about it many times before. He and his friends did a Shadowrun campaign that was just fun. And it was run by someone that had never ran a TTRPG before. And Shadowrun is massively crunchy. There's a lot, especially earlier Shadowrun. Sixth World, which is the most current version of Shadowrun, has gotten rid of a decent amount of the crunch. But Shadowrun in and of itself is a crunchy game. It will always be a crunchy game. That's what it's designed to be. So if you don't mind crunch and you like kind of cyberpunk themes, Shadowrun, not only can you get that kind of allegorical stuff, Shadowrun, it's really hard not to be allegorical with Shadowrun just because of how cyberpunk in and of itself is designed. So it's a cool system. Moving on. Star Trek Adventures, they've recently released a 2nd edition of it. I have not messed with 2nd edition yet. But I have extensively read through the 1st edition of Star Trek Adventures. Star Trek Adventures is Star Trek in a TTRPG. And I know that sounds kind of reductive, but I want to give you the full meaning of it. Star Trek Adventures allows you to tell stories that 100% could have been an episode of The Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or Voyager or the original series. The game is designed around the true purpose of science fiction, which is to remove the audience enough from what they're watching or consuming, or in this case playing, so that they won't take it personally when you start commenting on the current culture of the world or the society that you live in. It's great. It really, really is. It's definitely one of my favorite science fiction systems, but it is meant to tell Star Trek stories. So if you want, to tell like a Star Wars-esque, fighting against the Empire, that's not really what Star Trek Adventures is designed to tell. It's, designed for you to go, uh, on its 5-year mission to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before. That's what Star Trek Adventures is designed to do. And it's got great roles for exploration and diplomacy and all the stuff that just made Star Trek great. So it's a phenomenal sci-fi TTRPG. I love it to death. The next one, I don't own any of these books. I think I've gotten like an adventure or two through like free RPG days or like starter guides. And the worst part about this series is it is currently out of print. So you can't actually buy this system. There's a company that actually owns the license for it, and they keep claiming that we're gonna reprint it. You're gonna be able to play it again. They haven't, and there are no. They've never officially released a PDF version of the books. They are exclusively in print, which is a huge detriment. But it does make pirating them just literally just a minor bit more difficult. And that's one of the reasons why it always blows my mind when people are like, well, I'm not going to put something on the internet. People could pirate it. Really, if people want to steal your thing, you're not going to be able to stop them. What was it? Was it, can't remember. There was a game that came out recently that I can't remember which one it was. Was it? Oh, it was Silk Song. Hollow Knight Silk Song. There was a subreddit that's dedicated to pirating video games, and they had an entire discussion about, hey guys, like maybe we shouldn't pirate this game. And the whole idea was like it's really well priced. Like I think it's like 20 or $25. The people that make it are really nice people, and they've never screwed over anybody by putting in like, rights management software and stuff like that. Like they're just really nice guys. Maybe don't steal this. So the people that their entire purpose of being on this site is how can we steal games that we don't want to pay for, when as far as say, maybe we shouldn't do this. It's a great game and these guys deserve to be paid for it. And that by far is one of the best deterrents to theft, is to make a product that is so beloved that people want to pay you for it. So anyway, there are 3 different flavors of the newest version of the Star Wars RPG. There's an old version by was it Fantasy Flight I think Fantasy Flight did the new one. Can't remember who did the old one. It might have been Wizards of the Coast, because it used if you've ever played Knights of the Old Republic and the sequel Knights of the Old Republic 2, they actually use the old OGL Star Wars TTRPG system. And it's literally just D&D and Star Wars. It uses the exact same feat system that 3rd edition did. Like it's amazing. But the new version, the 3 versions there are Edge of the Empire, Force and Destiny, and I can't remember what the 3rd one was called. But they each kind of explore different things, like Edge of the Empire. I think Age of Rebellion was the 3rd one. So Edge of the Empire is all about smugglers and all the people that worked outside of the law. Age of Rebellion was all about the rebellion and fighting against the Empire. And then Force and Destiny was Jedi. So the system itself is really cool. Hyper RPG back in the day had an entire series that they did using Force and Destiny that was phenomenally fun to watch. The system itself technically uses special dice, so you're supposed to use these special dice that have all these different symbols. You don't have to. You can use regular dice. You just have to remember what each number equals. And I'm not particularly fond of TTRPGs that effectively force you to use their dice, because you're not using the numbers on the dice. You're using little symbols that they put in there. So that's a little bit annoying, but worse things have happened. And it's Star Wars. Again, I love Star Wars. And there's lots of cool stuff that you can do. If you're looking for something that I'm trying to see how I can say this without being blatant. I'll put it this way. I will guarantee the people that made this did not ask Disney for a license. But there is a game called Star Wars 5e, which is literally Star Wars D&D. I did a couple back when I used to do D&D Deep Dive. It was a series I did where I just did these deep dives into D&D 5th edition. I did do a few episodes where I talked about a few Star Wars 5th edition things. So if you're interested in playing Star Wars, that does exist. Literally just type in Star Wars 5e into Google and it will take you directly to where you can get all of it. It's a really robust system. I don't think, well, when I explored it years ago, I don't think it was the best balanced system I had ever seen, but it's very, very good. And it does definitely scratch that science fiction itch, especially if you want to play Star Wars and you don't have like $100 to buy one of the few print versions of Force and Destiny that exist on like Amazon or eBay or something like that. So yeah. Oh, wait a minute. I do own Starfinder. I just realized I actually do own Starfinder. I got it as a bundle. I just didn't have it with Pathfinder because it has a different name. I should probably put all of those under like Paizo just so I can organize them together. So yeah, I do own Starfinder. I thought I did because I'm like, I remember looking at the rules and going, this is kind of cool. I just don't like how many rules there are. But yeah, Starfinder, again, if you like space and you like Pathfinder, Starfinder is literally that. Again, it's overly complicated, but it's very, very crunchy, but it's still fun. If you like crunchy stuff, you'll like Starfinder. The Stargate RPG. I think I kickstarted this one. I have played this. My buddy Elias ran a one-shot. It's great. It is an OGL thing, so it is effectively D&D Stargate version. But that's not a bad thing. Like, it's genuinely a lot of fun to play. And it's not pure Dungeons and Dragons. They make enough changes in it so where it's not the same game. The systems are not compatible. Like, you couldn't take a class from the Stargate RPG and use it in Dungeons and Dragons. But it's a fun game, guys. If you like Stargate, it's great. Also, they did sell, I hope they still do, they had Stargate themed dice that you could get with it. The D4 for this is literally a caltrop. Like, just look up Stargate RPG dice and look at the D4 and tell me that's not a weapon. It looks wicked. But it's super cool. It's massively fun. And again, it does let you tell those Stargate style adventures, which again, Stargate, like other classic science fiction, very often used the fact that they were fighting aliens to talk about commentary of the modern day. And Stargate was set in the modern day. And so it was even easier for them to go, oh, maybe they're not so much different from us. But it's a great system. Moving on. I have not played it yet, but I did pick up a copy because I didn't have any of these kinds of books. There is a game called Teens in Space. It's made by the people that do Kids on Bikes and Kids on Brooms and that entire kind of genre of things. It's a more rules light TTRPG, and this one is specifically designed to tell stories that are kind of akin to. If you remember, there was a TV show called Space Aces, I think is what it was called. Jewel State was on it for the first season. But those kind of like teen science fiction, coming of age television shows / movies. That's what it's designed to do. So it's not pure science fiction, but it is a lot of fun. It's a cool system. I like it. Traveler, really, really early TTRPG. It came out, I think, in the early 80s or late 70s. Traveler is unique in the idea that you can die during character creation, because part of Traveler is you have to basically create what happened to your character before they became the adventurer that they're going to be. And so a lot of that is rolling on a bunch of different tables. You choose like a career path, then you roll on the tables to find out what happened to you before you became the adventurer that you are. And on a few of the career paths, they're dangerous. You can roll and die. And so your character can die before you're done with character creation. I've always found that hilarious. The system itself, again, is designed a little bit more around that classic science fiction-esque thing. Trying to think of who's the author I'm thinking of. It's not Verne. Asimov. Isaac Asimov and that kind of genre of science fiction, not genre, that generation of science fiction. That's kind of what Traveler's designed to, the stories Traveler's designed to tell. It's a really cool system, but it is a relic of its age. It is an old school TTRPG. It's still the most recent version of it still has a lot of tables that you roll on, stuff like that. So yeah, if you're into that, it's a cool system. If you're not, maybe not. Where's Blade? It's not out yet, but I did kickstart it back in September. It is technically it is out in Japan. I kickstarted the first English language translation of it, and it is literally pitched as swords, magic, and mecha. So this one is a little bit more of that science fantasy than it is science fiction, but something that anime in and of itself does exceptionally well, which is what Where's Blade attempts to emulate, is there's a lot of anime that is built around the idea of kind of commentating on society. I mean, if you look at Nausicaa in the Valley of the Wind, Princess Mononoke, even more modern, like I realize I'm exclusively pulling from Miyazaki, but he's so good at this of, Laputa or Castle in the Sky, Howl's Moving Castle, they all have kind of a commentary on society. And it's great. And then when you look at kind of more modern modern stuff, things like Mary and the Witch's Flower also has that kind of commentary on society and classism and things like that. So yeah, Where's Blade is coming out, but I don't think it'll be out for another 6 months to a year. And then finally, we have the without number systems. I can't remember which one came first. I think it was Worlds Without Number. But they have two other versions. They have Cities Without Number, which is kind of your modern stuff. And they have Stars Without Number. And Stars Without Number is, again, it is designed around, I'm just trying to open up the core book real quick so I can actually see the damn thing. So I have to remind myself, because it's been a while since I've looked at this. Yeah. So the without number system in and of itself is a little bit crunchy. It's not massively rules focused, but it's a little bit crunchy. But it's also, it technically does have classes. It is technically a class-based system. But there's only 4. There is Expert, Psychic, Warrior, and Adventurer. And Expert is your more kind of rogue style characters. Psychics are your kind of magic using style characters, but they're psychic. Warriors are your combat focused character. And Adventurer, you get to mix and match 2 of those. So you get, it's your hybrid. That's how you create your hybrid. So it's a really cool pseudo class-based system, because the real thing that you have is there's tons and tons of skills in this. So while they do have classes to kind of put you into a role, this is more of a skill-based system than it is a class-based. And again, it's a cool, very well-supported TTRPG. The people that make it have been, as far as I can tell, it's been over a year since I've messed around with the without number games. But what I remember is they tend to support the system relatively well, and it's a very, very beloved system. People just love it. So, yeah. So those are sci-fi TTRPGs that I own, that I have either actually played. Oh, that was one I forgot. I don't know how I forgot this. Dune Adventures in the Imperium. How did I miss that? So Dune Adventures in the Imperium is probably my favorite science fiction TTRPG I've played. Dune Adventures in the Imperium is literally Dune. If you've not read Dune, Dune is a wonderful commentary about how fucked up our society is. It is amazingly well written. And Dune Adventures in the Imperium allows you to literally tell the stories that Dune told in such an exceptional way. And their method of conflict resolution in the game is completely scalable. So you use the same conflict resolution system for combat that you do for negotiations, that you do for massive, like, big wars between two armies, or tiny little duels between two characters. It's such a robust, interesting system. Who makes it? Modiphius. It uses their 2D20 system, which is a phenomenally great system. And yeah, like, you get to build your own, noble house, and it's such a great system. So yeah, I didn't want to forget about that. So yeah. Anyway, that are those, and I have actually played Dune. I did a one shot of Dune, and it plays so great. It's so smooth to play. So that is a list of a few of the sci-fi TTRPGs that I really enjoy. Interested to hear from you guys. Do we have any sci-fi TTRPG fans? And do you have a favorite? Maybe one of the ones I listed. I know I didn't mention things like Paranoia, because I don't personally own Paranoia. I know of it. I know a lot about it. But I just don't own my own copy of it yet. So is there a TTRPG, a sci-fi TTRPG that you really, really enjoy, and why do you enjoy it? Put in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's going to be all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.